Black waitress is mocked for her scars. Until a veteran is shocked to recognize the unit tattoo, she walked through the restaurant, head held high, pretending the whispers and stares didn't sting. Every step felt heavier than the last, every laugh at her scars sharper than a knife. She thought she could disappear into the background, but someone was watching, someone who shouldn't have seen what she carried. And then, a single glance, a single moment, changed everything. What would happen when the past she tried to hide collided with a stranger who recognized it? This is her story, and what unfolded next would leave everyone in the room speechless. It was a busy Friday night, and Jasmine was doing what she did every weekend, serving tables with a practiced smile, hiding the weight of her own worries behind a professional mask. At 24, she had learned to navigate a world that often judged her before it saw her. Her small apartment, her late-night study sessions, the dreams she whispered to herself. They were all pieces of a life she worked hard to keep. Steady. Tonight, though, something felt different. The regular chatter of customers, the clinking of glasses, the hum of conversation, everything seemed sharper, more scrutinizing. Eyes lingered longer than usual. Words felt heavier in the air. Jasmine tried to brush it off, telling herself it was nothing. But deep down, she sensed that this shift, subtle as it was a warning. Something unseen was about to test everything she thought she knew about fairness, respect, and safety. The night wore on, and Jasmine moved from table to table, smiling, through the familiar ache in her shoulders. Orders piled up, but it wasn't the work that weighed on her. It was the whispers, the glances, the subtle sneers that seemed to follow her wherever she went. One customer lingered a little too long at her table, his eyes scanning the faint scars that traced across her forearm. A flash of recognition, or was it judgment, passed across his face, and Jasmine felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She shook it off and continued serving, but the atmosphere had shifted. Laughter around her felt sharper, conversations quieter when she passed by. At the end of her shift, as she carried a tray stacked with glasses, a co-worker's careless comment cut through the din. "Did you really have to wear that dress? Those marks are kind of distracting." The words weren't loud, but they landed like a hammer. The sting wasn't just in the insult, it was in the ease with which the world seemed ready to dismiss her, to reduce her to her scars. Jasmine forced herself to breathe, to steady her hands. She had faced prejudice before, but never so blatant, so personal, so invisible to anyone else. The murmurs continued, building into a current she couldn't escape. She kept her head down, moving through the restaurant as if she were invisible, wishing she could disappear into the walls. Yet no matter how she tried to shrink herself, the weight of the stairs pressed in. Something told her that tonight would not end quietly. Then it happened. A new customer entered, someone different from the usual crowd. He was older, dressed in plain clothes, but carrying an unmistakable presence, a quiet authority. Jasmine didn't notice him at first. She was too focused on clearing a spill near the bar. But when he spoke, his voice cut through the chatter with an unexpected intensity. He asked a question, simple enough on the surface, but his eyes locked on her, in a way that made her heart skip. Recognition flickered across his face, and for a moment, time seemed to freeze. Jasmine felt the air tighten around her, the murmurs fading into background noise. Something was being understood in that gaze. A memory, a story, a past she had tried to keep hidden. The whispers of the restaurant became irrelevant, the sneers meaningless, but a new tension replaced them. What would this stranger do with what he had recognized? Jasmine's pulse quickened, her breath caught, and a chill ran down her spine. She realized that whatever happened next, her life, her dignity, and the truth about who she really was were all teetering on the edge. Jasmine froze as the man stepped closer, his eyes never leaving hers. The room seemed to shrink around them, the chatter fading into a tense silence. Every instinct screamed at her, run, hide, defend, but she couldn't move. He reached out, fingers grazing the edge of her forearm, and her breath caught. Recognition flashed in his gaze, sharp and undeniable, as if he had just uncovered a secret that had been buried for years. "Those scars," he whispered, barely. Audible, yet it cut through the air like a knife. Her pulse hammered in her ears. It wasn't the words themselves that hurt, it was the weight behind them, the acknowledgement of everything she had tried to hide. Memories she had carefully tucked away, of battles fought, of pain endured, of judgment faced, rushed back in a flood. Around her, the room's energy shifted. Some people noticed, curious. Others continued their murmurs, but now their eyes held a different tension, a new awareness. Jasmine felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the world had paused just to watch her unravel. And yet, in that vulnerability, something stirred. A spark of defiance. A flicker of recognition that she had survived far worse than whispers and stares. The stranger stepped back, his expression unreadable. For a heartbeat, they simply stared at each other, the room holding its breath. Jasmine realized that the moment she had feared, the judgment, the scrutiny, the mockery, was here, embodied in one person who held the power to either validate her pain or dismiss it entirely, and then, just as quickly, the tension snapped. The man's eyes widened, not in anger, but in shock, a sudden understanding dawning on him. Something unspoken passed between them, a revelation, a truth neither could ignore. Jasmine's chest heaved as she braced herself, unsure what would come next. Would this recognition bring vindication, or something far more complicated? The room slowly returned to its usual rhythm, the murmurs fading, the clinking of glasses filling the air once more. Jasmine exhaled, her shoulders heavy but steadier now. The moment had passed, but its weight lingered. The stranger, the veteran, had looked at her not with judgment, but with recognition, as if acknowledging the battles she had fought silently. It didn't erase the stares, the whispers, or the cruel assumptions, but it reminded her that her scars were not shameful. They were proof of survival, resilience, and strength. Walking home that night, Jasmine felt a strange mixture of exhaustion and clarity. The world had tried to reduce her to her scars, her skin, her history, but she had endured, unbroken. Every glance, every whisper, every act of subtle cruelty was a reminder of the injustice many face daily. Yet within that injustice, she discovered a truth. Acknowledgement, understanding, and human connection could pierce the walls built by prejudice. Her story didn't end with humiliation. It became a testament to perseverance, a quiet rebellion against a world quick to judge and slow to understand. It was a reminder that real courage is often invisible, lived in moments of silent endurance, in facing judgment with dignity, and in holding on to self-worth when the world tries to take it away. And as she paused under the streetlight, her hand brushing the faint outline of her scars, a question lingered in the cool night air. How many more will endure without recognition, without validation, without anyone seeing their truth? Jasmine had survived tonight, but the larger battle against bias, ignorance, and systemic injustice was far from over. Her story was a spark, a call to notice, to question, to challenge. Because every time a life is judged before it is known, the world loses a chance to witness strength, humanity, and the power of resilience.